This okay. This is regular board meeting of October 21st, 2021. It's now 4:36. We'll begin roll call. Please, Mary.
President Lake,
Here.
Vice President Herrera,
Here.
Clerk Chavez,
Here.
Member Cortese,
Here.
Member Doe.
Here.
All right. We have agenda item 1.02. Welcome to the board meeting of October 21st, 2021. Are there any members of the public who would like to provide public comment to the board on a closed session agenda item at this time? No? Oh, thank you, Teresa. If no member in the audience and no one sent any statement, then the board will now recess to the closed session. All right, all our board colleagues are here, so we just resume an open session. We start with Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand up. Thank you, everyone. Welcome to the board meeting of October 21st, 2021. Item 4.01. Members of the public, please submit your public comment online by accessing the form on the district homepage at www.esuhsd.org or the link on the agenda. Please limit your written comments to more than 1,000 characters in length. Public comments submitted online will be read into the record. You may also raise your virtual hand in Zoom to request to speak. You will have 2 minutes to speak. Please note, all meetings are recorded. All regular and special meetings of the Board of Trustees and Board Study sessions are streamed live on meeting nights and are also available for viewing the day after the meeting by accessing the district YouTube channel listed on the district web page at www.esuhsd.org under the quick links section. The board is not able to respond to items that are not on the agenda or any personnel issues. The comment will be read into the record and will be directed to the superintendent and or the appropriate staff member for response. Interpretation of this meeting in Spanish and Vietnamese can be heard by accessing the link and following instruction shown on the agenda and the district website. We move to 5.01, adoption of agenda. The superintendent and board members may request that items be removed from the agenda for consideration and or carry to a future board meeting for consideration and or action, and or that board take action in a regular meeting on a subject not listed on the published agenda on an emergency basis or other basis allowed by law. Gov Code 51954.2. So we move to 6.01. Board special recognition as honoring a life of service. Kathy Giamona, Superintendent Glenn Bandersey, please take it over.
Yes, thank you very much. And I'm wondering, Omar, if I could be able to share my screen. Thank you for that. On October 10, the Eastside Union High School District lost a friend, a pillar of our community, and a mentor to many, Catherine Giamona. Catherine Giamona began her teaching career in Eastside in 1973 at the amazing James Lake High School, and taught in many of our schools, was a principal, moved on here to the district office and served in many capacities. At one time held the distinction of being both the Associate Superintendent of Human Resources and Instruction simultaneously. Thank you, Catherine, if nothing else, just for that workload. But truly, to know Catherine Giamona was to know somebody who was deeply, and I would almost say fiercely loyal to the East Side, as a district, to this side of town, to this community. And what made her wonderful, she was loyal to the whole of who we are and to each of us within it. Like if you were to run into Kathy, you knew that Kathy was on your side. And sometimes that felt great. And sometimes it didn't, because she needed you to be better, right? And she needed you to be better for others. I will miss her tutelage, her rolling the eyes and Glenn, what are you doing? I will remember her for someone who was willing to cry when she had to make a difficult decision for the district, knowing it was the right thing to do, but knowing that some people would be hurt by it, and was willing to share that, but also willing to just cry out of laughter in terms of reveling in just who we are. And life is precious, and Catherine knew that about each of us and each of our students, and she treated us that. And I just want to take a moment for us to remember the preciousness of that life and what she gave us, and thank her for a life of service to Eastside. If we could just have a moment for Catherine Giamono.
Take a moment.
Thank you, Catherine.
Madam
I
President,
know, yes, I know that Board Vice President Manuel Herrera has been working with Kathy Giamono for a while.
yeah, I'm just wondering if this is time for members of the board to make comments.
Yes, I think it's the time. Yeah, please go ahead.
I would just like to say that Kathy Giamono is someone who really made a strong, heartfelt connection with people. She wasn't just a professional, which she was. She was so a human being with people. I'm going to stop. That's all.
Well, for me, I had a short time with Kathy, but I remember her as very gentle and very understanding, help out, what I did not understand as much when the first year when I got elected as a school board. So I know I also miss Kathy Giamono very much, for the time that she put in a service for Eastside Union High School District. Any other board comments? No, okay. Then we move to 7.01. We didn't see, is it Paula here? Paula Escobar, Student Governance Board Representative. If she's not here, then we move her later on, or she's going to be on the. She's online. Oh, okay. Yes, go ahead, Paula Escobar.
Ella, if you'd like to unmute yourself.
Hello.
Hi,
Hi.
Paula. Thanks for being here tonight, and I would
Yes.
love to hear your comments from the Student Governing Board.
Yeah, so hello everyone. Today I had to be joining, but I'm still here to represent. I want to announce that Student Governing Board has been working hard to ensure representation of all students. And in order to achieve this goal, we have been reaching out to new schools and making sure that we are really kind of being mindful of the practices in place to elect Student Governing Board members. We really hope to diversify Student Governing Board. And for us, this means ensuring that underrepresented students have a seat at the table, whether it's Black students, Hispanic students, students with IEPs. We are on track to make sure knows that they have a voice and know they have a seat at the table to make a change. Hope to fill vacancies at any schools, and if you might know be interested in something like this, please let us know, because we're always welcome to inviting new students to our meeting.
Did we lost her?
Looks like we might be having some connectivity issues, but here she is back again. All right, there, if you're able to unmute.
Well, are you still with us?
Well, it looks like we might have
We may come back.
lost power to connectivity issues. In part of our resolution that we passed last time, and including public comment and taking care of this, was the notion that if ever there is a Wi-Fi issue that keeps us from operating, that we need to suspend until we can correct that. And so we'll reach out to Paula if we have her cell and see if she's looking to rejoin us.
You can come back after we have a technical problems, resolve it, Glenn. All right.
Per our agreement for participation, if we are experiencing Wi-Fi issues, that we do need to suspend until we can address it or find out if she would like to wait for her comments to at a later point.
Okay.
So we'll hold on for that. But while we wait for connectivity, we'll pause.
Yeah, okay. So Paula, I'm going to put you on the, okay. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just talking about student representation, and if you know someone who might be interested in student governing board, let them know that we meet basically like every other Monday, and you can find our meeting dates on our website. I'm really trying to fill out all the vacancies on our current student assembly. So any student is welcome to come to meetings and just talk about an issue that is important to them. And we welcome students of all backgrounds and want to ensure that our space is inclusive for everyone, regardless of what background they come from. And we really want to hone in on the historically underrepresented student voices to ensure that they have a seat at the table. And that's something else the Student Governing Board has been focusing on was mental health and ensuring that student wellness is placed as a priority above many things, and that this district is taking adequate measures in ensuring that students feel safe and heard on campus.
That's all you have? Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, Paula. And yeah, just stay tuned with us. And if you have any other question, some of the item, then just join in with us. All right. So we will move on. Do you have any questions? Yes.
So per the bylaws, Paula is going to need to do a preferential vote on all of our items. So how do we
do this?
Suggestions on how we. Paula, can you log back in?
Yeah, I'll log back in right now, and hopefully it'll let me hear, and then like my audio won't cut off.
Okay, very good. And just watch your phone, because if we lose you, I'll reach out again.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. Okay.
All right. So we move on to 8.01. The superintendent and the board members may request that items be considered, discussed, and act on out of the order indicate on the agendas per schedule. I've seen none, here none. Then we move to 8.02, presentation and a discussion regarding Metro Ed programs, SVCTE, Alicia Lynch, Superintendent Metro Ed. Welcome back, Alicia. Please take it away.
Hi, good evening. You can hear me, everybody?
I think your microphone.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you, Superintendent. Good evening, Superintendent Vanderzee and governing board members. This is my 9th time visiting Eastside Union High School District. And last year I did call in via Zoom. I'm crossing my fingers that you have my PowerPoint presentation. Mary? Did Mary have my PowerPoint presentation? Okay. While we're waiting for that to come up, I just wanted to say, yes, I'm Superintendent Lynch. I haven't met some of the new board members. It's nice to meet you. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me back again. And the first slide that will come up is going to be Hope Nguyen Rasher, and she is from Eastside Union High School District. You'll see her picture. And I simply wanted to say thank you. Thank you for sending a counselor to our campus who's been there. The slide will show you that she's been there 5 years to assist your 550 students that you send to us. She's been with Eastside Union for 21 years, and you have, as I said, 550 students, so it's a lot for her to manage. In the beginning, she has approximately 800 students that apply at the end of the school year, and then placing them into programs. I can continue on without my slides, or I can wait, either one. Okay, that's fine. So I thought, being that I hadn't been here for a year, it was just a nice transition to say that last year that we reopened in March. So it seems like in COVID years, a long time ago, but we reopened in March and we were in person. 50% of our students were there. So that's what we had last year, is about 500 students. We provided our curriculum on Canvas like many of the other districts. And then we had, like many of the other districts, we provided Chromebooks to all of our students that were in need if they did not receive those from a home high school. We had last year, many of you have heard of our Skills USA program. It's a program where students compete from the program that they're in. They go to a competition. Despite COVID, we had 4 national winners. So we had 4 students that competed and went on to nationals virtually. Everything was virtually. With all that said, I came here tonight just to say what's new at Metro Ed and just to give you an update. So behind me, I have 2 new people. I'm going to turn around in a second. Dorothy Recanosi, who's going to wave. She's our new CBO. That's Dorothy. And then I also have with me to my right is Thomas Kaiser, and he is our new Director of Technology at Metro Ed. And the graduate of Independence High School. So they both wanted to come. So what's new at Metro Ed? We're up to that point, and I can tell you that this year, overall, we have 34 instructors. 3 of them are new. So that's a pretty high percentage. Our 3 new instructors this year are dental, electrical maintenance, and sports medicine. No problem. No problem at all. So you can click to the 3rd slide, and that will catch up with me. That was Hope, your counselor on our campus. I see her frequently. I kind of filled you in with what happened last year, and the next slide will bring you up to speed. That was Dorothy and Thomas. And then I was just telling you, we have 3 new instructors. And then, like many of the campuses at Eastside Union, we have the social emotional learning counselor. We have grants, and so we're paying for that out of a grant. And then something new for us this year, you may have heard in the Community Opportunity Youth Academy or Opportunity Youth Program. It's for students that are re-engaging in school, and they have leased a room on our campus, And they're re-engaging school or students and partnering with us to help students that are age 18 to 24 who were not successful the first time. We think it'll be a good partnership that will help our enrollment. Next, we have, I want to say, schools got CARE Acts and they got Essa Funds. What we're getting is for JPA centers, we're getting somewhere about $1.5 million to reimburse us for the expenses of COVID last year. And we spent about $1 million. So we have those dollars coming in sometime in November. And then just sharing something that's new also, last year was the first year that we gave out new scholarships. In my time at Metro Ed, we gave out, I think it was almost 20 scholarships to students for taking our programs that were adults. And so they were able to enroll for free. The next slide, which is this one. Oh, I'm sorry, back one more. Okay, thank you. This is just what we call your school report card. The school report card tells you the data, gives you the demographics. I won't go into that, but you always have primarily juniors and seniors, mostly seniors in our programs. And then it gives you data on the IEPs and students in special ed as well. So next slide, please. And then this one is the data, the outcome. You had 364 students that completed pathways. If you think about it, it was COVID last year. So that's really good for everything that was going on with returning 500 students in person. We had still 376 certifications, 104 articulation agreements. That means that students got credit for college, that they could earn credit at a college. And then the next one was 40 students received dual enrollment credit, and that means that they got college credit as well. And then finally, we try to reinforce what you're doing here and in our other districts, and we know how important UC A through G is. And I think about this and I look at it and I always think if the students didn't come to us, we wouldn't have the 126 students that got the D credit and the 48 students in F, 111 in G, and then 46 in E. So we really help with your students that are on the UC A through G pathway. Each year I bring to you a list and I just look for the high numbers. This is a list of the programs that your students are in. I know you have a lot of CTE classes here in Eastside Union. So we're always grateful and thankful for the partnership and sending students to us for programs that are unique and very difficult to replicate on one of your high school campuses. And so on the bottom this year we're at 537. So that represents where your students are right now. What classes are they taking on our campus? Couple last slides.
That's a quick question. So the previous slide where you showed 596, 500 and something, that's enrollment of our students, right?
Yeah, everything
What's your-
here is
What's your
specific.
enrollment overall? Because I'm looking at some of these programs and like, wow, how do you run an HVAC program with 10 students? So you
Right.
must have quite a few other.
Yeah, you're 50% of our students
Okay.
enrolled. And then the other schools such as San Jose Unified, Campbell, Milpitas, Santa Clara, and then not sure who I'm missing. Los Gatos. Thank you. Los Gatos makes up the other
You have a little
50%.
over 1,000 students then.
Yeah, we're I'm just going to say right at 1,200
Okay,
this year. Yeah.
thank you.
And the one thing I like to emphasize this year is, I was very, very nervous because of COVID. We didn't really have the same opportunity to, I want to say, recruit. Typically, we have 10,000 students that come to our campus on a bus on field trips, and they see the classrooms, they see the equipment. So I was very nervous. I was very pleased, very happy with our enrollment this year.
So the next district enrollment behind East Side, because we're the largest, is San Jose? Is it San Jose?
This year it is San Jose.
And
Yeah.
what's their enrollment?
San Jose is, I'm going to say about 300.
About half.
Yeah,
almost half.
definitely half.
It used to be, or historically hovered around half of East Side.
Yeah.
So we're the one really who are, you said 50%. It's been a little higher in other years.
Yeah.
So.
And then
yeah.
typically Campbell Union High School District would be next in line. And every now and then some weird things happen. So typically they're right at 300. This year, I'm going to just say they started high at 300 and they dipped. So they're down at about, I want to say 260.
I'm just curious among us members of the board, how many of us have actually visited the campus and seen the facilities? You have not. So Lorena Chavez and Brian Doe have not. We got to get a hold of them.
Terrific, yeah. I was saying for Eastside, when they turn in their applications, and sometimes what happens is there's different reasons for attrition, and this is the most popular question I get asked all the time, like what happens to those 300 students? Some things are that either they change their mind about the class, they might not like the class, their friend, boyfriend or girlfriend may have left the class, transportation, getting back to your home school, and then sometimes it's that they find out when school starts that they actually had to make up a class from the year before, they need to retake a class. There's such a variety of different things. Counselors contact them, or it's just not a good fit. Those are, yes.
In addition to our two new board members, I wish she was here to tell you herself, but our student governing board member would like to tour your facility as well.
I'd like to be in on that. When they go, I want to go.
Yeah. Actually, I'll wrap up this by showing you that we had Assembly Member Alex Lee come out to our campus for a tour, and we had other board members there. So what I'll do is put together a particular date where board members can come back. So we'll do it before the rain, before December.
But let's not show them anything virtual before we actually have them there physically.
Okay.
To experience it.
Understood.
Okay.
Thank you, Manuel. Okay, so this next slide is simply, I bring the same information each year. It's so that board members have an idea where the students are coming from. Clearly, you can see Evergreen sends 72 students, the 63 over at Oak Grove, and then 67 at Silver Creek. 50 and 42 is really good as well. Sometimes it's determined, I'll just tell you, like, it's determined, sometimes it starts at the top. It means it's the principal is very supportive, or a counselor is very supportive, or it could also mean that they're a school that's close by, they're easy to get to, or that they have transportation. So all of those things influence a student getting into our program.
Do more work with the independence. And
Where are you located? Where are you located in this?
We are, I want to say, right off 287 at Capitol Expressway.
Capitol Expressway going west. So when you are on 87 and you get to Capitol Expressway, you get off that ramp and turn right.
Yeah, Auto Mall and
Oh.
Pearl.
We're behind that.
Yeah. Well,
Right. That's what I was saying. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, sometimes, like I said, if we go out there and we talk to a particular principal and they know who we are, what we do, it changes our enrollment. So there's so many other factors, but being close by really helps. Okay, and then this is the enrollment history. Each time I show up, I drop 1 year and then just show you where it's been going. The last 3 years, a majority of our districts have had a decline in enrollment. We know that all of our districts in Silicon Valley have declining enrollment overall, people moving away. So that's one factor. Funding is another factor. So we like to point out how it affects us. And on the bottom, over the years, it's been a reduction of $430,000, because the only way that we are funded is directly from our school districts, and it's per student. So sadly enough, there's a price tag for each and every student that comes to us, and that's what makes up our funding. And then we have 2 other streams of funding, which are state grants that we apply for.
Which means that to the extent that the East Side has built its own career technical education programs, there's been a corresponding impact on Metro Ed enrollment.
There can be, sure. Yes. And I will say, like, I do meet with the superintendents. For those of you that are new, I meet with them 3 times a year. We do review our enrollment. We share that with them. And sometimes we talk about what are some other new options, you know, what can we look at? And that's how the OYA came to fruition, starting a new partnership that can bring additional students to backfill classes if we have space available. And then finally, the final slide, this, it was Alex Lee who came out on a tour. He was a champion for us last year. We've been, for the last 3 years, working with the state and asking for direct funding Prior to LCFF, we were funded directly, and all categoricals were reduced, and then the schools divide up the money. So we're super fortunate that our 6 districts value us and send money to us. At the same time, we would like to have direct funding from the state so that we have a little bit more control over it per ADA and that kind of thing. So we're going to continue to work on that with our local legislators. And that's my report. Thank you. Yes, Patty?
What does it cost per student?
I like to
to-
round it up ever so slightly to say $7,000 per student.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That, that's like that's like 3/4 of their ADA.
It's almost 3/4 of an ADA. It's a program that's a half a day. And in there, we also pay for the transportation, which is $1.3 million. And if we have special ed and counselors, so whatever dollars that we do get from all of it, yes, it is exactly from the, I want to say per funding per pupil. So the 7,000, the way that it works out is all the 6 districts all have their ADA number. We add them together and divide them, and then that's what the funding cost is.
Well, thank you. Yeah,
Questions?
Yeah, let me finish this with Superintendent Alicia Lynch. Thank you.
She has a question, I have a comment.
Yeah. Right. Let me finish this with,
Yeah, I
I
think
didn't have a question from her. First, I want to thank you for the presentation. And it's been a while that I did not go back to visit the school. But my question is the 2 questions that I have in mind. First is during the COVID-19, and you know that a lot of program has hands-on experience. How did you accommodate the student? It's not that easy when the students see in front of their eyes or they see through the computer. That's my first question. The second question is, do you have a report to look back to those student alumni when they finish your career pathway program? Are they continue to the career, or they would go higher school like university or college? So did you have this type of report that you can bring back and let us know that, or the student probably will find a job already, so they will continue later on? So that's my 2 questions for you.
Okay. Simple answer for the first question. Number 1 was that we sent home what we call a lot of kits. And so, you can really visualize if it was a robotics class, that we had little robots that we would put in a kit and they would drive by and they would pick it up. If it was like a sports medicine class, then we had rolled up tape and it would be in a kit and they would drive by. We actually mailed things home as well, but for the most part, they would drive by and they would pick things up. As far as hands-on and it's demonstrating competencies, what they would do is they would actually videotape themselves at home and then send it to their teacher. We had culinary where they were actually buying the, I want to say the supplies at home, and they were cooking at home, and then they would show their product. So there was still plenty of learning going on. That was the first question, videotaping and kits and packets and things like that. And then the second one, we have what's called end of year data. So we do collect end of the year data. Last year, I know factually, we only had 9 students that were able to go out to internships. Usually we would have like 309, but because of COVID, putting them in a dental office or putting them in a doctor's office, a majority of that in the beginning, they did not have their hours to go and do that. But the end of the year data we do track is what pathway are they going on to, how many go to college, how many are going into the military, how many are going to the UC, and are they going to a 2-year school or a 4-year school. So I have that data in a report similar to what I showed you on there, what I call your school report card.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Board Member Lorena Chavez.
Do you know some of those numbers off the top of your head? Like how many go to UCs, how many, like what different pathways or percentages more so?
I don't know it off the top of my head this year.
Okay. Would you be able to send us that report?
We can do that, certainly, no problem.
Great. In terms of the classes, the programs, can we go back to the program slide? Was that specifically for, yeah, the number of students that are enrolled in each of those programs that go to East Side schools?
Mhm.
Got it. What's the one that has it? So medical assisting and dental assisting is the one that has the most.
Yeah.
Auto services. Okay, all right, that's helpful. Of these pathways, specifically the ones that have the highest ones, how many of those courses are actually A through G, or are they all A through G?
I'm gonna say 17 out of the 23 are A through G.
23 courses, 23 pathways?
17 classes. A class is 1 year long. So we only have 23 classes. And so of the 23, 17 of them are A through G.
So, sorry, I'm confused, like, each student takes 23 classes when they're.
They would
to get
take
a
one
pathway?
class, like an example, the animation class is A through G.
Yeah, but I imagine they take more than one. Is it just, it's one, in order, when you do a pathway, you take one class?
Yes,
And that takes half a day, being in one class?
yes.
So like 2-3 hours, kind of like block schedule.
Yeah, they're longer classes. Yes, they're electives. And yes, you could consider them a block class if
Oh.
you're equating it to your home campus.
Okay, so a student will go to your campus for half a day from their school.
Yeah, what they do is they go to their home school first. Let's just say they're coming in the morning and they get on a bus.
Yeah,
And then the bus drops them off at our school for our morning class. They'll stay there for 2 hours. And then they'll go back on the bus to their home school and then they'll take their other 4 classes.
okay, got it.
If they happen to take an afternoon class, they would catch a bus in the afternoon during lunch. They would come to our campus for our 12:30 to 3:30 class, get back on the bus and go back to their home school. We have, because of COVID, 50% of the students are practically driving. So COVID changed some things.
Okay, and so they take one class the whole year, and that class either is or isn't A through G.
Correct, yeah. And a majority of them are, but not all of them are always made to be A through G.
So 23 out of 40, is that what you said?
17. Yes,
17 out of 23,
yeah,
because these are 23 programs that we have.
yes. Yes,
17 out of 20.
and
Remarkable development, because it wasn't that many years ago when we didn't have A through G curriculum.
right, when I got there, there was 1. And then we
Wow.
went from 1 to 5 to 7, to 10 to 12 to 17.
Wow.
Because it's important to be able to attract students who are college bound also,
Yeah,
if they want to go on to,
yeah,
if they're in the UC A through G track.
yeah.
It wouldn't leave them career options if we didn't do that.
Yeah, because I think it's important for our students to explore different pathways. And by the time that they graduate, to be able to say, okay, I can do this, or this. If you see as the option that I want, even if I chose to do SVCT pathway, I still earn credit towards
Yeah,
whatever, right? And it's mainly, I think you named certain letters, right? Of
I
the A
did,
through
right.
G.
The next slide, I believe, had the letters. It's like a group of your students. Next slide. Not sure which order, but I'm sorry, go back up the other way. It's
What,
one, oh yeah, right there.
what subject areas are those? I don't
So
know. if
D, that's a good one. I know for sure that, I want to say that G is general ed. I know you know. Thanks, Teresa.
Yeah, the D is the science, the F is visual performing arts. The G is your college elective. So usually it's anything that doesn't necessarily fall in one of the previous areas, or it could be an interdisciplinary course. Or a lot of students use their extra years of the other ones to designate it as a G. And then your E is your language other than English.
Is math the C?
Yes.
Are y'all looking at C? That's a big one. Not just in this district, but I think overall, math can be a roadblock oftentimes.
Math and science, which is why we've done a lot of it, despite getting other letters. A lot of students come to us like in construction because they can get algebra or geometry credit and they think they're not going to get it another way. So it's an academic credit.
But it's not a UC credit as of right now.
It's not easy. Is that what you said?
No,
Or-
a UC credit. It's
Oh,
not a
e-credit.
C category, right? Like
I'd
not
have to check my
officially.
list on the on the 17 classes.
Yeah, that's one I'd be really interested in.
Mhm.
Because again, aside from, it's great, UC credits, adding to the opportunity for students to like double dip, if you will. But that is a big one. Thank you. I'm really excited to go visit and really see it. I've heard amazing things.
Thank you.
I have some understanding to do from like the programmatic to what does it look like in person. So I'll be reaching out to do a visit, and I'll let Manuel know. And Brian and Paula.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you, Alyssa.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Any board member? Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
Can you help elaborate how you come up with the formula to determine $7,000 per student for East Side students?
Yeah, we are made up of 6 different districts. I'll name them again. We've got Milpitas, Santa Clara, East Side, Campbell, Los Gatos. Who did I forget? Santa Clara. So we have 6 districts. And an easy way to say it is like you're funded per student. Let's say that one district is funded $10,000 per student. Another district would be $9,000 per student. Another one might be like $11,000. What they do is they take the 6 districts, that number, the 11,000 or 10,000 or 9,000, whatever, they add it together, divide it. And there's an average. There's an average number in there, and that is what everybody pays, so that it's equal for every school district paying the same amount for each student. So they average the 188, the cost of each student. They put them together and divide it by 6, gives it an average. No, they're not, because they average it.
It got hammered out in a very tedious and tense.
There's a
process.
formula, yeah. Our Yes, yes, and I want to give you a simple answer on that. The answer is yes, and it's simple. I want to stay with that because before, when I arrived, it wasn't like that. It was a sliding scale. For East Side and other districts, the more you sent, the less it was. But that was something that was a roadblock when I got there, and we had to solve that. And in my opinion, and the way that it worked out is every student, you're a human being, blood walking student, your value is the same. So that you pay the same. Your enrollment, I should say, your admission is really the same. You pay the same for every student. The cost for every student is the same. And I just emphasize that.
Does the cost vary from year to year?
It does. And it's because your district may get more money. If all of your CBOs, your ADA can go up or down. Most of the time it goes up because the cost of living adjustment, the COLA, when you receive an increase, the state funding, that one goes up. So to give you an example, when I got there, it was approximately $5,700 per student. But over time, the state has continued to give school districts a COLA, a cost of living adjustment, and an increase. So therefore, the districts pass it on to us. So I don't personally set the rate. It's not me. It's whatever your school district are already getting.
So for instance, our ADA is $11,450 to $5 per student. That's what we as a district receive per pupil. And so if Campbell, when she talks about the calculation of Campbell and San Jose Unified have a different number, that's where they start to look at the average. The cost for us to send someone there is 7,000, almost 7,000.
I
rounding.
don't-
Yeah.
Why is the cost of the program variable on how much we receive per student?
It's not, it's a flat fee, if I'm understanding your question.
Well, if it's a flat fee, then what are the factors that have the fee go up?
It's not, it's the state increases the funding to your district, and it's in the agreement, it's the formula that we have. It's the cost of covering a program.
Yeah, but I think if I'm understanding kind of the context of the question, when we have more enrollment, we have more resources, we can expand classes, we can provide additional resources for the training. We can do a lot of things that we've had to cut back on as we've been squeezed over the last 8 years or so. There's just been, the institution has suffered levels of funding that have made it challenging for us to maintain the full strength of programs where we've had to eliminate them rather than continue them because we didn't have.
Yeah, I mean, if I
And
was,
You're speaking we as your represent.
I'm
you
saying
being the
we because I'm
representative on
the Metro Ed rep
Correct,
from this
but you're not
board.
saying we as East Side right now.
I'm saying we as Metro Ed.
Yeah, thank you.
And yeah, the more enrollment, the more resources, the more you can expand classes, the more you can, resource them. And you've just tightened so much and you've eliminated courses that didn't have a high enough enrollment to carry the cost of delivering them.
yeah, I mean, I don't have legal careers anymore, just because if I were to just say it a different way, I mean, put it all together, it's not the answer to the question you asked, Patty, but when I arrived there, our funding level was 13 million. And now my funding level is 10 million. So what classes do I not offer or why, that kind of thing. But so to answer your question again specifically, the adjustment is based on the districts, whatever they're going to pay per student is just taking what the state gives each district per student and averaging it. So with Santa Clara, we all know Santa Clara's funding is a little higher. I'm just going to give the example. They might get like 16,000 per student and you might get 11,000 per student. So you average that out and let's just say it's 13,000. That's how they actually come up with the number. It's all the 6 districts together and averaged.
And the funding that comes to Metro Ed has to pay for the overhead of the organization as well.
Everything.
It's
yeah.
management, it's administrative staff. And
Right.
one of the areas where I was about to say where Metro Ed is, is hurting is in capital expenditures that either are close or mid-range and we can see them, but we don't quite have the resources to invest in what we should be investing in capital expenditure.
I just want to get some clarification on that. You take all the numbers, the average of all the school districts, ours, the one with the A.
Yeah,
Formula, and then everything is about 7,000.
correct.
Roughly.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to do it on a round number. Yeah.
So a school for a basic A, who may receive something like
Mhm.
So $7,000 may be a small percentage of their ADA and us.
Mhm.
Right? But so every school that have a higher participator, a higher basic A,
Mhm.
actually hurt each side because they say gotta pay more. And then
Overall, in the end,
the dollar amount was, right? The $7,000, roughly 63% give or take of our ADA, roughly, if my math is correct.
yeah, in the end, of course, you're going to pay more because you send more students.
Right, not just the dollar amount, but the per student.
Mr.
No.
Doe, could I ask you to turn your microphone on so our members of our
No.
public can hear?
Sorry
You're
about that. So what I was trying to figure out is just to confirm the number. What I think I understand is it's almost $7,000 per student. And the formula you come up with was, the existing formula, not you, Ms. Lynch, I don't mean that, is that you take all the school districts and what they receive, average that, and then divide roughly, you have a formula that came out 7,000 per student. So as percentage of the expenses, so a student coming from a basic 8 school would be paying lesser percentage than say in Eastside Union, where we have to pay higher, right? And if our numbers, you said earlier, is about 11,000 and change. So I would take, 7,000 and divide by 11, that's give about 63% and change, approximately. Right? Is that my understanding factually correct, numerically wise?
I mean, that's one way of interpreting the numbers, but I mean, it really is a per student cost. And so if we're the ones that are way more than any other district sending the students, we're paying more across the board than others, and because they're not sending anywhere near the number of students. But gosh, I'll make another point. I'll remember. When you say you, whether it's the superintendent or the institution, the number that developed in the way that it's calculated came from the districts through their superintendents who hashed this out, and essentially Metro Ed needed to abide by it. It's the districts through their superintendents who established that formula and way of calculating. It wasn't management at Metro Ed. Management was involved in those discussions, but they were driven by the superintendents of the districts.
I just got an understanding of the number.
Hmm?
I just want to understand the
Well,
numbers,
I know,
the
but you can say
numerical,
you
financial. I
calculate.
don't
You
mean
can say
like
you
Ms. Lynch, or
calculate.
I don't mean,
No, I don't
how
mean-
the formula.
I don't think
right.
you even mean her, but even the you being Metro Ed, you got to kind of look this way. The districts and the
Understood.
superintendent are the ones that drove that.
Understood, but I'm still concerned about the almost 2/3 spending for approximately 1/3 of the time. And that's what the origin of my questions.
The answer to that is because the programs that we have are far more costly than what you have on any of your high school campuses. If you go there and you look at the equipment, and we're designed to keep up with the state of the art, the industry. So we're going to have new software, new computers, new film and video cameras. So if the cost you consider it higher because it's 3/4 of an ADA, its transportation is covered, everything is covered in there, all the services wrap around, college applications, all of that under one roof.
Might suggest that maybe next time when you visit Metro Ed, so maybe you can develop more questions and Superintendent Lynch can answer that. Yes, Patty?
Just one more follow-up comment. I guess I was just a little, it helps me, Manuel, to understand that it was the superintendents who came up with the formula, but I'm sort of surprised to learn that the amount we pay isn't based on the cost.
The number you pay is not on the, what was the question? Something cost.
The amount we pay is based on a formula, as I'm learning right now, is based on a formula that was devised by this consortium of superintendents rather than on the actually what does it cost to provide the,
I
you're not taking the
understand.
cost and dividing it by the
It's
number
not
of
per
student
program is what you're saying. You're not looking at how much does it cost to run X, Y, and Z. It's
Right,
overall.
like you're saying, okay, we have a capacity for this number of students and these are our costs. And so now we're going to divvy that up by every student. You're just saying, we're going to take some fraction of the ADA that you get for every student and that each district gets per ADA. And then we're going to come up with some formula that
Well,
somehow equalizes that across the districts.
yeah, I don't want to make anything more complicated. It used to be the other way. It was unequal and other districts were paying higher and lower costs. But let's put that aside because it's not like that anymore. So
Okay.
it doesn't matter. But it's not, it is the superintendents who ultimately in the end agree to it and then they bring it to your board for ratification. However, with that said, it's facilitated by School Services of California, which is a consulting company that works on the dartboard of all of ADA. And so they advocate for what's fair to the districts and fair to the center.
And having said all that, what you offer is amazing and Metro Ed is a gem, really. So thank you for
Thanks,
that. I
it's
just
very
want to
convoluted.
understand it better. That's
Yeah.
all. Yeah.
That's fine.
I just want a better understanding. I
understand.
obviously, we appreciate the service you
problem.
provided.
No problem. I talk about it all the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
See
Superintendent
you next
Lynch.
year.
Yeah, for your presentation. Yeah, go
Said
ahead.
I wasn't
board
going to make
member.
another comment, but I just want to publicly acknowledge Superintendent Lynch, who, like other superintendents, the pandemic last year and a half was extremely challenging at Metro Ed. And she was a problem solver. I mean, at every turn, she was finding ways for the organization to get equilibrium and survive, on challenges that previously had never been there. And at our last meeting at Metro Ed, we really took note of her leadership through this difficult time and the cumulative leadership that she has brought to Metro Ed. And we just acknowledged her in concrete ways. Let me put it that way.
Thank you.
Okay. So
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, thank you. See you
That's
next year.
All the
Okay,
question we
bye-bye.
have. All right. So we move on to 9.01. Is open public hearing. We will now hold a public hearing, which is scheduled approximately right now is 7.04 for resolution 2021/2022-07 regarding the sufficiency of textbook and instructional materials per education code 6119. Can I call public speaker first time? Calling for public speaker for second time. Calling for public speaker at third time. So there have been no person present who are interested in providing testimony. The public testimony portion of this item is now closed. Right, move to 9.02. Discussion. Discussion and action to adopt resolution 2021-2022-07 regarding the sufficiency of textbook and instructional materials per education code 60119.
for approval, Madam President.
I'll
All
second.
right, okay. I have to ask student vote.
I vote yes.
All right, thank you, Paula. All right, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All right. No abstention. The item 9.02 passed unanimously. We move to 9.03. Open a public hearing. We now hold a public hearing, which is scheduled approximately 7 p.m. and 6 minutes regarding adoption of resolution 2021/2022-08. Enter into an energy services contract with Bay City Mechanical, district-wide mechanical and electrical upgrades at Oak Grove Building Equipment, Government Code Section 4217.12. Calling public speaker once, twice, right? And third time. There's been no persons present who are interested in providing testimony. The public test portion of this item is now closed. Right, we move to 9.04. Discussion and action to adopt resolution number 2021/2022-08 and enter into energy services contract, district-wide mechanical and electrical upgrades, Oak Grove Building Equipment, Government Code Section 4217.12. Glenn Vandezi, Superintendent, Julio Lucas, Senior Manager of the bond, Roger Silvera, Director of Facility, Maintenance and Operation, Brandy Mayhew, Director of Bond Purchasing and Contract, and Tu Nguyen, Capital Projects Purchasing Manager. Would like to explain any other questions for this item?
Does the board have any questions? Otherwise, Brandy Mayhew is here to speak on the item if you'd just like to hear a little bit about it.
All right, yes, Brandy Mayhew, please take it over.
Randy, is this the first time we hear you speak?
This could be.
Ah, welcome. Yes. Yes.
Welcome. All right, can you hear me? Oh, thank you. I've never been accused of having to need a microphone, so excuse me if I speak too loud. Oh, yeah, thank you for the reminder. So the energy services contract is a procurement method that is allowable by government contract code 4217.10. And what it does is it allows us to seek a contractor that can review a project, design and build it. They have to guarantee that the savings, the energy savings will eclipse the cost of the project. So in this case, Bay City Mechanical is saying that we will save, okay, I have to put my cheaters on, is saying that we will save $989,000 over the life of the project, which is 25 years. And the cost of the project is going to be $920,000. And I'm sorry, I'm rounding. Am I not speaking into it? I'm sorry. Okay. Did you want me to repeat that? Oh, okay. Oh, thank you again for the reminder. According to government contract code, we have to do two things in order to make this procurement method legitimate, and that is to do a public hearing and a resolution. And that allows us to bypass the sort of the bid process that you're normally used to.
Can you say again the cost and the savings?
The cost is $920,905. And they guarantee that
savings.
over the life of the project, excuse me, the life of the product cycle, which is 25 years, it will be 989,000. And again, I'm rounding.
Okay, so it pays for itself?
Yes, it does. That's the beauty of this procurement method. It has to pay for itself, actually has to exceed it.
All right, well, I'll move to approve.
Thank you so much.
Anyone second? No?
I'll
Okay.
second.
All right. Our student governing board, Paula, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
All right, thank you, Paula. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you. No abstention. Item 9.04 passed unanimously. 10.01, public member who wish to address the board. Members of public may address the board on a subject not on tonight's agenda. However, provision of the Brown Act Government Code Section 54954.28 and 54954.3 preclude any action as an unagendized item. No response is required from the board of district staff and no action can be taken. However, the board may instruct the superintendent to agendize the item for a future meeting. Any person may address the board on any item on the meeting agenda. Persons wishing to submit written comments must fill out a speaker request form via online submission. Please reference in your submission the agenda item number for your comment. Your comment will be read out loud as part of public meeting if timely received during the identified agenda number. Comments should be limited to no more than 1,000 characters in length. You may also raise your virtual hand in Zoom to request to speak. You will have 2 minutes to speak. Do we have anyone raise hand on this item?
There is no written public comment at this time, Madam President.
There is no hand raised on terms of attendees.
All right, thank you. So we move to 11.01, presentation, information, discussion, and action regarding update on novel coronavirus, COVID-19. Mr. Superintendent Glenn Bandesi, please take it away.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Per usual, we're here to give updates in terms of where we are as a county. There has not been a significant action taken since the last time we met when there was the order for moving for the vaccination of students. So tonight we'll just be looking at the dashboard and vaccination levels in our county and give you an update into our vaccination status among staff. And let's get into that. So we continue to see a decrease in terms of our 7-day rolling average in the county, and we are at 144 cases over the last 7-day rolling average. Once again, we had that spiked a little bit, but we're continuing to see a decline. What we're also seeing is an increase now in our residents who have completed their vaccination, and this does not include booster at this point. So this is the first 2 doses, and we're nearing 85% as a county, which residents of Santa Clara, thank you. I mean, this is what every county should be doing, and we invite others to reach the levels of Santa Clara and providing for public health in such a way for our neighbors and families and friends. So thank you for that. Also, this is our COVID dashboard as of today. You know that we take, and thanks again to Human Resources for putting this together and monitoring it. For the last 10 days, we do a 10-day rolling count, not an average. So for staffing totals over the last 10 days, we've had 0 positive cases and 14 positive cases for students across our 21,500 some odd students. They're staying healthy. Thank you for that. And in the adult ed, 0 positive cases for both staff and students. Good things, right? All right. As we know, the public health officer had the order of vaccination for staff, and if not, testing. Currently, 82% of staff has been able to verify their vaccinated status. I'd like to encourage our employees to at least catch up to the county at 84.9 and then get past that. So well, we do know now that that we have about 5% on a verified testing program too. So it's about 87% compliance with this, and we're looking to get all the way to 100. And really encouraging staff once again to, if you are vaccinated, please verify. If you're not, please get vaccinated and verify, or otherwise reach out for. Please know that you'll be participating in the testing program. For our next steps, we're going to continue to monitor the data and provide appropriate response, because that's what we do as a district. And we'll continue to up those levels again with the staff vaccination, verification, and testing. We'll be voting on some MOUs later this evening. And just so that staff is aware that in dealing with sick, in terms of if wherever is forced to quarantine for any method, in order to not to have use personal sick leaves, that we would have to have the vaccinated or the status, and we can speak to that a little bit later. And then we'll continue to monitor and prepare where the state is for the student vaccination process. And last time we talked about that they still have to determine the rules, set it out for public comment, establish the rules, and then the rules begin or kick in the following school term. So once again, if they can get their act together before December, we would start in January. Seems highly unlikely. Otherwise, the next term would start in July 2022. And so that's essentially where we are with COVID. And I want to thank once again our community for responding the way we did. It is difficult, or it is proving challenging, but we are proving capable and resilient as Eastsiders and teaching and learning with masks on, but we're doing it. And I just want to thank everybody for taking the appropriate actions for the health of others. Thank you, Madam President.
When you're done, do we have any question from our board? All right.
Are all of us in the system as verified board members?
Yes.
Since that's
Yes.
confidential information, we will not
It is.
disclose that,
Oh,
but
that's
you can ask each other
confidential?
privately.
You are
Okay.
numerically accounted for.
Excuse
Yes.
me?
You are numerically accounted for within the entire system, correct? The part of the percentage that Mr. Banerjee was quoting it as
Well, numerically,
82%.
there's 5 board members that are in the system, huh?
Yes,
That's as
You're part of the-
specific
Not
as Mr.
identifying
Wynn's
any
gonna
of
get.
them.
That's
correct. You're part of the
All 5
numbers.
of us, we done.
That's all we can
right.
say is you're part of the numbers.
I'm proud of that HR move, Mr. Wynn.
Thank you, Superintendent Glenn Verazzi, for your presentation on COVID-19 update. We move to 11.02, presentation and discussion regarding Senior Manager of Internal Audit, first reading of the draft 2021-22 Annual Audit Work Plan. Ms. Kelly Kwan, Senior Manager of Internal Audit. You have 10 minutes to present.
Good evening, Board and Superintendent. Kelly Kwong, Senior Manager of Internal Control. This is the annual audit work plan that's being presented. It is the first reading. We will be discussing this at the Audit Committee meeting on Thursday, October 28th, and thereafter we'll bring it back to the Board for final approval of the second reading.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I do want to make a comment. Brian and I work with Kelly as Audit Committee Chair and Vice Chair, and we really appreciated the intentionality behind this plan, right? It's simple bullet points, but there is so much that goes under each and every one of these bullet points. I really appreciated how you've been very proactive in meeting with each board member and letting us know where you're at, why, and really honing in on the important stuff. And it's easy to just add a never ending list, right? But we got to get things right. And these things are hefty, and you're very, very detailed. So really appreciate your attention to the detail and really bringing us back and saying like, this is a priority and this is why. And so I feel very confident in this plan, even though again, simple, but enough there to be more than a job of one. So just want to thank you for your work and intentionality in this proposal.
Thank you.
I feel very honored to work with you. I appreciate your preciseness and your detail, the two quality we want from an auditor. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Kelly Kwan. So this is the first reading. So you're going to bring back the second reading at next board meeting? Or okay,
Yes.
Great. No more board member question? Thank you. Good job. All right, we move to 12.01, presentation and a discussion regarding elementary and secondary school emergency relief as a plan. Ms. Teresa Marquez, Associate Superintendent of Educational Services, please take it away.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam President, Board of Trustees, Superintendent. I'm here to present to you the yet again another plan required for us by the California Department of Education that fortunately comes with funding. And so it is a pleasure for me to come to you so that we can review the requirements of the plan as well as our intentions for the expenditures of the money that is being allocated to our district. So first of all, I begin with, again, what I begin with all our presentations, because I think it's important that even though it's an additional plan that's been added to our plate for completion, we really should take advantage of connecting it to the work that we do as a district. That if we're truly going to meet not only the requirements, but continue to work towards the things that we want to work as a district, it's important to keep those connections in mind. And so I begin with our promise of us as a district to continue to have our kids be college and career ready. And for us, that's exhibited in our students leaving us with the elements listed in our graduate profile. Additionally, as always, we connected to really why we exist as a district, and that's to create these equitable Eastside communities, which you all know well, but really truly look at it and how do we continue to leverage the added funds that we get, not only to continue to allow us to maintain the services that we have, but really work towards our goal of building these equitable communities. So what is this plan? So this plan comes as part of a response to supporting school districts across the state of California to not only mitigate the actual transmission of the virus, but to also look at the mental, social, emotional, and academic needs of our students that may have potentially been worsened by the pandemic itself. And so this is an opportunity for us to look at not only how do we support our students' academic, social, emotional, mental health, but how do we work with our budget to continue to have fiscal solvency and be able to not only maintain the services, but potentially add additional services to support our students. And so for us, we're really looking, if you could stay on that slide, please, Sister Banerjee, thank you. So for us, we're looking for the plan to continue to be a living plan that addresses how we respond as a system to the needs of our students. There is a requirement for us to make sure that there's alignment with existing plans, in particular, the Local Control Accountability Plan and the Expanded Learning Opportunities Grant, which are plans that I previously presented here to the board. Additionally, it does allow for us to align and support our existing budget for fiscal solvency, knowing that we may have experienced added expenses that we may have not anticipated, that this will allow us to maintain those services and possibly add services, as I mentioned. And then finally, of course, we still want them connected to our key performance measures, and we want to ensure that equity is at the core of the plan. Specifically, the priorities and expectations of the plan in terms of the compliance lens that this plan brings are the following. Obviously, the mitigation of the transmission of the virus, ensuring that we're able to stay open in person, keep our students safe, our community safe, our staff safe. And you can tell that we're actually doing quite nicely given the presentation Superintendent Banerjee just shared with you. They're looking at strategies for us to be able to look and address at the impact of lost instructional time through any kind of extension of learning, whether it be after school, Saturday, summer school programs. So they added some funding to allow us to be able to enhance those offerings. Additionally, looking at, you can go back still one more, thank you. Looking at how do we monitor and ensure that those interventions that are gonna be in place are gonna support those needs that have been identified. How do we supplement those actions and support those existing activities within our LCAP and ELO? And I think it's important to note that last bullet. Other activities that are necessary to maintain the operation of and continuity of services and continuing to employ existing staff of the district. And for us, I think that's really important, given some of the fiscal challenges that we've experienced, that it allows us to be able to use some of this funding to be able to address our budget situation so that we can remain fiscally solvent. And so really at the core, it's how do we ensure interventions are addressing the student needs? So there is an expectation that, like I mentioned, it's connected to our existing plans as well as connected to the measures, which I'll speak to in a little bit. But of course, taking advantage of the fact that we have this opportunity to have funding, we also want to continue to look at it through that systems lens. Right? What are the policies, the practices, and the access points that we need to make sure that we look at and we leverage in connection with our LCAP and our Expanded Learning Opportunities Grant to make sure that we're utilizing the funds in a way that's going to support our students, but also allow us to maintain fiscally solvent. Part of the requirements, as with every plan that we've presented, is that we gather stakeholder input. One of the requirements of the plan was that, yes, we definitely look at existing input that we collected from the LCAP, as well as the expanded learning opportunity, but also give added opportunities for our stakeholders to engage and provide additional input. And so I was able to hold some stakeholder engagement forums that you could see there, the various sessions that I offered. And I asked 2 key questions of our stakeholders that included parents, community, students, staff. And those are the questions you see. What are those strategies that through their perspective, through their lens, they feel would support in really addressing the academic, social, emotional, mental health needs of our students, as well as what are some strategies or actions that they would like us to consider to really look at the impact of any lost instructional time that our students may have experienced as a result of the pandemic. One of the key things and strategies that I learned as a result of having to collect a variety of stakeholder input is to really utilize our teachers. And so, and they've been super responsive. So kudos to our teachers for taking advantage of having student voice elevated in their classes. So I offered to teachers a graphic organizer, the slides, to engage students as part of their class in a discussion to collect and gather input for this particular plan. And many of the teachers responded and used their time to engage students in discussion. And so these are some of the key responses that I was able to gather. And so, you know, it kind of was a large range of what kids were thinking in the moment, right? And now it's interesting to see the difference in input that's collected from when we were in distance learning to now that we're, you know, back in person. And so the realities of in-person instruction for some of our kids are starting to be, you know, identified here in their input. And so, you know, less homework. They're feeling a little overwhelmed with homework, which if you make some connections, that's impacting their mental health, it's stressing them. And so feeling a little bit of a work overload. They're still looking for healthier and more desirable food options. They're looking for more tutoring supports, one-to-one support. And again, mental health, I think Paula, our student board member, mentioned that continues to be top of mind for many of our students. From our staff, looking at how do we continue to support library services across our district. A really interesting idea around funding athletic referees so that all students can participate free of charge in events. So that surfaced and that was something that at least caught my eye that I'd like to investigate a little bit further. If we're really about inclusivity and looking at how do we continue to support students outside of the classroom, how do we then make more of those football games, dances or other activities that we're starting to return to, how do we make them more accessible to more kids, regardless of whether they can pay for them or not?
So are you saying that people can attend the games free of charge or that they can play the sport free of charge?
No, attending.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because playing the sport is already
Yeah, playing is
of
free.
charge.
No, it's attendance. Yeah,
Thank you for that
attending the games.
clarification.
Usually it's like, $6 to go to a dance or $6 to attend the football game. Yeah, no, the athletics themselves, it's free of charge. It's the attendance, a spectator. From our parents and community, again, looking for more one-to-one support for students to support mental health. Looking at how do you incorporate, which I think was really interesting, the mindfulness aspect of social emotional learning into the actual day-to-day classroom experience. And then of course, summer school classes for enrichment. Next slide, Mr. Hernandez. Thank you. So the way the plan is, we're expected to respond to the plan is within these 3 key areas. One of them is around strategies for continuous and safe in-person learning. Meaning, how do we continue to use our funds so that we're able to stay open, right? So that we mitigate the transmission and we're able to ensure that our kids, our community and our staff are going to be safe. How do we address the impact of lost instructional time? And then a very vague and open use of any remaining, funds to be able to support our efforts as well as ensure that we're fiscally solvent. And so what you'll see in the plan, and I just pulled this directly from the plan, you actually have the plan also so that you can see the fuller detail. In the first areas, the key actions listed are, of course, maintenance of facilities for cleanliness and disinfection, personal protective equipment, the PPE, to ensure that we have ample supplies, the COVID monitoring, right? The efforts to ensure that we have the vaccination statuses, that we have attendance monitoring, that we have a person that's able to support the dashboard data and being able to ensure that we're following all the protocols that are coming out from public health. Support for students in adhering to those protocols, right? Making sure that they understand what's required of them when they're on campus, keeping the mask on, washing their hands, making sure that they're following those protocols. Development of protocols for isolation spaces and symptom monitoring, making sure that we involve our nurses and being able to give us their expertise in how we address situations so that we're able to, again, adhere to those protocols. And then finally, separation of common spaces to individual workspaces. So there's some areas that were kind of common space and people would work together in these spaces, shifting them to individual cubicle spaces to allow for there to be a little bit more safety for that person themselves as they're working in their individual space to mitigate the transmission. In the second item, addressing the impact of lost instructional time, which is where the bulk of the money is going to, close to 19.7 million of the 25 million allocated to us. You see added mentoring and academic support for students, continuing to support our cyber high online credit recovery by funding teachers on 6th grade assignments, looking at the funding of our subject area coordinators as they develop priority standards so we can really address where is the learning loss, right? If we identify the priority standards that we're covering within our instruction, how do we then identify the mastery level or proficiency level of our students across those common standards in each of our subject areas? Supporting our students with disability with assessment and progress monitoring, access to literary resources and research support for students. So the use of the library support that you see that was the input provided by some of our staff. our summer school program, making sure that we can expand it and even maybe use some of this funding to have smaller class sizes so they could be that more one-on-one support that many of the parents were asking for. Equipment to support access for continuous and full participation in learning. And for this, I'm talking especially now during these times, musical instruments, to make sure that students have access to that, to take them home, to be able to practice so that they can reach that mastery or proficiency, lab equipment, other different instruments and equipment that is needed for students to be able to fully participate and access the full scope of the curriculum. Academic and social emotional counseling provided by school counselors, and making sure that our school counselors have the time and opportunity to be able to also, when encountering a student, not only make it about academics, but also embed the social, emotional, and mental health aspect of it. And then, of course, the retention of our highly qualified teachers, making sure that we're able to support our teachers and maintain our staff, support it so that they're able to then provide the instruction to our students. And that's part of that component that I mentioned about ensuring that we continue to be fiscally solvent as we're continuing to maintain efforts while still adding some added efforts and programs to support our students' needs. And then finally, the last piece, the use of, very vague use of any remaining funds. We're looking at the support for our behavior, student behavior, uniform behavior response through the work of our advisors, making sure that our advisors are supported in being able to meet the behavior needs of our students. Coordination of our professional development for all staff that's focused on trauma-informed care, compassion fatigue, and restorative practices. Access to devices and technology. We're allowed to be able to continue to use some of our funding that has come as a result of the pandemic to support the technology needs of our students and staff. Continued wellness and mental health support to be able to improve the wellness centers that we already have across our sites and be able to provide the equipment that our social workers need to be able to have the wellness center really truly be a place where kids feel comfortable. And then finally, the coordination of our ever-growing independent studies program. We're having to add a number of teachers on 6-period assignments. And so that is something that is obvious, evidently an extra cost for us, and being able to support in that area as the requests continue to come in.
Quick question.
Yes.
So access to devices and technology for students and staff, how does that expense differentiate from our Measure I tech bond? SI? Tech bond.
The tech bond.
Technology.
Yeah. Measure E, Measure I? Measure I tech bond. Yes.
Yeah, so this is like curriculum software programming, and it's also the sustainability of staff to support in that area. So funding to support a portion of IT staff salary to be able to do all the things that we're expected to do, which is the one-to-one distribution, the constant updated now software now that all our students have the various devices.
So the tech bond would pay for so the tech bond pays for the device, and then this is paying for software? Is that-
Software and
people?
salaries.
And salaries. Okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
Mhm. Fiscal solvency and maintenance of effort, yes. Yep. Mhm. And so another component in the last few pieces that I'll close with is, yes, we're getting 25 million. Yes, it allows us to maintain efforts. And it allows us to be able to remain fiscally solvent for this year and the coming year, and be able to look at ways to continue to support what we currently have and then potentially add. But we're also expected then to measure, right, the effectiveness of that. In the area of keeping us safe, obviously, we have a wonderful dashboard data that now we can utilize to actually demonstrate that we're remaining open. We have our attendance rates where we can pull, how many kids have been called in out for sick, what is our attendance rate continues to be as we continue to keep our doors open, and then our vaccination rates. So those are key data points that we can use to show the effectiveness specific to this item. For the second and third items, they're directly connected to our key performance measures, right? And so if we look at it through how we break up our school year, we have the grading periods where we could use students' grades, behavior referrals, attendance, use our warning system that allows us to be able to hone in on the students that are not experiencing success and really be able to then dole out the interventions that are needed for the students to find success. At the semester, we can look at the on-track status for students based on the credits that they've earned. Again, attendance rates. We're going to be rolling out our panorama survey again. And so we'll have those survey results so that we can get that quantitative or qualitative data from all three groups, our parents, our students, and our staff. And then finally, end of year data points, which are graduation rates and A3G completion rates. And that's how we intend to continue to keep the alignment and measure the effectiveness of the use of the funds. And so at this time, I will take any questions, but the staff recommendation is for the board to approve the ESSER plan as presented.
Any board colleagues has any question? No comment?
Is that a surprise to anyone? Thank you, Teresa. First of all, this is an amazing presentation, and it is very clear that a lot of work and thought went into this. And just as the presentations progress, I feel more and more gratitude for all the connections and how we're thinking about all of the plans, the systems that we have in place, and just blending them all together so that we're just strengthening our systems. And also, at the very beginning, I just really appreciate how equity is at the core of all of this, right? Just wanted to note that. If we can go to slide 13. When we talk about retention of highly qualified teachers, is that like the PD that you were referring to, or?
So that's salaries.
Salaries, okay, maintaining salaries.
Maintaining salaries at their current rate to be able to maintain that fiscal solvency.
Okay, thank you. Can we go to slide 14? What was my question here? Okay, the coordination of professional development, the second bullet point, is that the MTSS stuff, or is that?
So all of it is MTSS, right? So everything that we do is connected to the MTSS. So the short answer is yes, because that would be a tier 1 approach that we would take. Many of these items you'll see in our LCAP, right? And so a lot of these are actual items that we've pulled from the LCAP to show the alignment and that we're supporting in terms of partial budgeting for salaries to do that particular item that may not be fully covered within the LCAP. So where the LCAP could potentially cover the actual PD, this is supporting us in being able to actually cover the salaries of the people that are involved as part of that PD. So like our advisors, student services staff, so various staff that contribute to that particular item that's held either within the Expanding Learning Opportunity Grant or the LCAP.
Every school or like the district office has like separate focuses, and so long as it's like supporting this category, that's where those funds go.
So supporting in the bigger category would be mental wellness, mental health, and social emotional learning, right? And so when you look at the 3 areas within multi-tier systems of support, you have the academic, you have the behavior, and then you have your wellness. So every action or initiative at a school is connected to one of those, right? And so in particular for this one, the professional development around trauma-informed care, compassion, fatigue, and restorative practices would be, really addressing all 3 because there's such an overlap, but really the focus on that wellness component where you're looking at supporting teachers and being able to understand, how do you address a kiddo that's coming in that is demonstrating behavior that is triggered by either trauma or something else? How do you mediate conflict between students that will allow you to further support their instruction through restorative practices?
But this is like different PD for at different school sites, right? It's not like, for example, the implicit bias training that we all took, that was the same PD for the whole district.
No, the goal is for this to also be consistent across a district-wide approach. So if we offer compassion fatigue professional development, it'll be offered from the district level to all sites across the district.
So this is still being thought out, right?
Mhm.
Like we have some stuff that is happening at
Yes.
different school sites potentially, and maybe
Yes.
some pilots,
Yes.
and we're seeing how it works so that we can replicate it.
Yes, and then that's why the role of the new role that we have, the multi-tiered systems of support teacher on special assignment, we meet with them monthly, and they play a role in being able to carry out the district-wide messaging and the district-wide work, and then adapting it to their individual sites based on where their staff is, like their school culture is, right? Some may be a little bit further ahead, and so some are doing, work that's more specific to developing their behavior expectations across the school site, because that's where their school are. Some of them already have done that. And so now they're working on, how do we develop our acknowledgement system? Or how do we ensure now that we have school-wide lessons specifically addressing that?
Okay, got it. So it could be like pillars, if you will, with all these different
Yes.
components that we say, okay, how we hit this, these are different ways, or this is what I'm doing. Is this skill mastered? This is opportunity. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for breaking that down for me.
Mhm.
Slide 16. Okay. With these, I first of all, I love this. Clearly articulating when are we going to see what's working, how are people responding, what is the progress? Are we going to be presenting this, or how is the district thinking about engaging with this? I think as a whole.
Yeah, so the LCAP is where you'll see the targets, right? So that's where we have the targets, and that's what we'll see, like how far or how close are we to those targets. And so at the initial level, that's why I separated them the way I did, right? Right now we have one grading period worth of data, right? And so we're engaging with our site admin teams and being able to say, okay, how are you going to use this data? Counselors, how are you going to use it? Our TOSAs just went through training on how to access and illuminate the warning system report so that they can see, okay, who are the kids that are in the system and what are we identifying as certain patterns, right? Are most of them on the system because of behavior? Is it attendance? Is it grades? If it's grade, where is it? Where's the breakdown? So what are the supports needed at the tier 1 level in terms of professional development for the teachers that we identify? And then at the tier 2, tier 3, do we identify specific kids? And that's the work of the counselors, right? Are we identifying those certain kids that I need to call in and talk to them and say, hey, kiddo, what's happening? You're on the system. Let's talk about it. Let's go over, let's review. And you engage in those deeper conversations based on the data. And so Kristen Keene has done a great job. She's done like drop-in hours to have the TOSAs really dig deep and understand how to utilize this data to bring it back to their sites.
Are there like takeaways that we have as a district once, like after each of these processes, to say, okay, like this is informing this before we get to the semester or before we get to the next semester or the end of the year?
Yeah, there's a lot of takeaways that we have. One is there's a lot of capacity building that needs to happen at all levels, right? At the leadership level, at all the various levels in terms of one, even what do I do with this data and how do I message it, right? How do I message it? If I, as a school leader, as a principal, have this data, how do I message it? How do I present it to my staff in a way that really brings us together to be able to get to our goals, as opposed to, it being something like defensive, or you're not doing this, or you're not doing that. And also taking it off of, well, it's the kid's fault, right? Again, it's that systems response, right? If these are the kids that are not succeeding, what are we as a system, which are things that we can control? What are we doing to respond to the students that are on this list that are currently not performing? So is it attendance response? Is it a behavior response? Or is it an academic response based on the reason why they're on the warning system?
Yeah, that's top of heart for me, the building the capacity at all levels, because there's so much to do all the time. And it's easy to respond. I mean, I will speak from experience. When you're exhausted and you get something that doesn't necessarily look exactly the way that you were hoping for it to look, sometimes I don't respond with my best self, right? I don't show up as my best self. So how do we build a capacity? How do we support? How do we engage in a way that's bringing people in, but actually like do it consistently? Because I think I mean, we, as a district, we do such a good job at looking at our data and analyzing it. What I don't see that much, and maybe this is getting in the weeds, and please tell me if I'm getting too in the weeds, but like, what happens after,
Mhm.
right? That I think that's the next level. And it's right here, right? Like, I think this, what we have here is really
Mhm.
powerful in terms of like what to look at. So I don't know if that looks like presentations. I don't know, like, collaborations. That's something I'd be interested in
Yeah.
continuing that.
Yeah, and the work is coming. I think it seems, and even I, right? It sometimes it seems slow, right? But then, you also have to remember, like right now, I just, this is just me. I completely underestimated the impact of the return to in-person. And so, you find me as a leader having to do a lot of things that I didn't anticipate that I was going to be doing, right? Visiting school sites to support because of certain things that may be going on at that site, just because of how difficult it's been for some of our families to return to in-person. You have the impact of the mandates, right? The ISP, those components. And so, those are different things that we're having to focus on that we didn't have to before, right? My colleague in HR having to constantly deal with the COVID dashboard, right? Like, right? He could be working on other things that are going to move us along, but that's part of what's, taking some time and important for the time and the existing challenges and that we're facing. But I think what you'll see with the different things that we're putting in place, such as the TOSA, the continued just push around multi-tier systems of support, is you're going to start seeing more of the data conversations, because we're looking for, like, example, the universal screeners for our kids, right? We don't have that in place at this district to be able to say, okay, we have the DRP, which is an initial thing, but how do we get that expanded so we have that data for all our students? And then how do we use that data to inform the practices in the classroom? We need a universal screener for social emotional learning so that our social workers have a little bit more data to be able to say across the board, hey, we have all our kids have this assessment done, social emotional learning, so we could see where are they with self-awareness, where are they with this, and how do we then truly address those particular needs? And we can start identifying patterns that we can then address at the tier 1 level. And we can begin to actually put in place interventions, right? Because to say, if you ask me, well, Teresa, give me a list of interventions that we use across the district, we don't have those yet. Right? And so how do we put those in place to be able to then truly start shifting those data points?
And that would be an outcome of all of this, right?
Correct.
Like, as I've been visiting the school sites, every single classroom has a UBR poster. Every single classroom. And I'm like, wow, what would it look like to have a poster of those interventions in every single classroom?
Yeah, and more than the poster, but actually seeing them in action, right? Seeing them in
see.
action so that then we can then, correlate them to some data points.
Yeah, but your point is well taken, that there's a lot this year, and I don't take that for granted. It's a balance. But what is our bet amongst, everything that is happening? If it's one thing, we're gonna go hard on this. I know that for the state, we have to put certain things like that. I get that. But given everything that we have going on, where do we see the biggest opportunity to, for example, build that capacity of not just our teachers, but every adult in the system that interacts with our children?
Oh, no, absolutely. And I think with, like I said, the things we put in place, I think where our trajectory is in that direction. I mean, I'm excited with the work of the TOSAs. They're starting and they're going to finish this year the work around the climate and culture aspect of it, because I think that's what is really needed. And at the same time, we're starting to look at the academic aspect of it. One of the things that we're doing too is that part of being a leader, which is, I think, very key in being able to push this work, is that self-reflection piece. And so at the same time, we're incorporating that learning with our leaders so that then they're able to carry the actual work and move it forward.
Yes, I do have to say that MTSS coordinator, for example, so powerful, such an amazing move. So a lot of good things happening. I love digging into this.
Yeah, no, I could talk for days, but I know I
Yeah,
probably
we'll
far
move on for
extended,
the sake of the
far
time,
extended
but,
the time.
But thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
this. Thank you for all the great work happening.
Thank you.
Yes,
I
Board
do have
Member
just
Patty
a
Cortese,
couple
go
of
ahead.
very super quick questions. So the universal screener, is that like a survey kind of thing, or what
For
is
the
that?
SEL, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we actually, interestingly enough, it's already part of our panorama survey that we could
Okay.
actually utilize and really start pushing it to become more of a universal screener.
Okay, great. And then you mentioned said something about ever increasing ISP. Do we have more and more students getting into independent studies?
Mhm. Yeah, requesting it and getting into, we're at 471.
Oh,
as of
and where did
today.
we start? Where did we start at the beginning of the school year?
We started actually in a place where like, oh, we can handle it with our existing staff, which was about 150.
Oh
And
my
then we
gosh.
just all of a sudden just have
So it's almost
continuously
tripled.
grown. Yeah, it just has really just continued to grow.
What do we attribute? Is that kids getting exposed to COVID or what's? what do
No,
we
it's just,
attribute
I
that
think
to?
parents just finding that the in-person where maybe they thought it was working and maybe it's not working for the kiddo and there's a little bit more hesitation. And so then they're finding that trying ISP is a better approach.
Oh, wow.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but kudos to my team and the staff for just doing, and kudos to the teachers for just taking it on too as a 6-period assignment, which I think is just tremendous. I think we're in a way better shape than a whole lot of other districts, I have to tell you.
Well, and I mean, double kudos because I'm also keenly aware of the subs shortage and noticing how
Yes.
many teachers have to give up their prep to
Yes.
cover other classes.
Yes.
And now if they're taking ISP, that's
Mhm.
not a 6-period assignment. That's a 7th-period assignment.
yes.
That's like a above and beyond the school day. So
Yep.
that's really
Yeah, and at the
heroic.
and the teachers have stepped up tremendously. Our classified staff in terms of supporting, and then our coordinator Jenna Perez has just been fabulous in being able to
Yeah.
keep us up to date and responding fabulously. Counselors and meeting with the parents to make sure they understand. I mean, it's just everybody. I know I've taken too much time.
Well, and it's just
There's no
important to
such
make,
thing.
Yeah.
I think it's important to be aware of all that because people are going to burn out. That's not a sustainable scenario. So, yeah, but thank you for bringing that all forward. Great plan.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I think it's very open eye for a lot of stuff that we did not encounter. I have one thing that I want to ask you that do we have like a report to monitor the ratio of student even though teachers or staff have been involved in social emotional, from beginning when we just reopened our school, right? And now it's been like more than 2.5 months. Are those ratio has been decreased or they still gonna keep the same ratio? I'm kind of like wondering, we have a lot of support, but still, when we get deep inside of those student, teachers, staff, has some social emotional, even though at home or, at our school. So
Yeah, so we increased the number of social workers at our sites by 1, which did help. But the number of referrals have increased. So if you're talking about a ratio, it's hard for me to say like, oh yeah, we decreased it because we added the second one. The amount of referrals that our social workers are getting for wellness and mental health are, I think I had a conversation with our lead up here and I think we're currently at a pace now where we were at the end of a school year. And we're not even to halfway into the school year. And so they're definitely seeing added referrals. So one of the items actually that I've added here that with your approval, if we do move forward with this is telehealth services. And so we're looking at investigating and a pilot program to provide through, virtual telehealth and it's one-on-one and it's, compliant. I had our lead social worker do the legwork on it to see if we can support and serve a student who would be open to a telehealth counseling one-on-one. And so we are looking at other ways to be able to support it. And so that's one of the items that is listed in here.
that's awesome. Yeah, thank you for your answer and all of your hard work will be paid off, for this. No, any other question? Then, so we're gonna have to, which is presentation and discussion, right?
I do need an action, so staff
I
is
think Brian made
asking
a
for
motion, right?
approval.
Yes,
Thank
best way for me to support you is to
Yes,
to
thank you.
introduce the motions for a request for a motion for approval, please.
Thank you.
Second, go.
Okay, second by Lorena Jarvis. How about our student governance board, Paula?
Yeah, and I'll also provide comment here too. I thought the presentation was really well done, and I also liked how student input was taken into consideration. And I really want to emphasize the key points that are brought up, especially surrounding mental health and making sure that we have more practices in place for our students in order to promote wellness and restorative justice. So I really like that as a part of the plan. And with that, I vote yes.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
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 No abstention. The item 12.01 passed unanimously. We move to 12.02, discussion and action, ratify, approve school field trips.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, moved by Patty Cortese, second by Brian Doe. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Oops, student.
Oh, student, Paula, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
No abstention. The item 12.02 passed unanimously. We move to 13.01, discussion and action to approve the emergency one-day closure for Pittman Hills High School on Wednesday, September 8, 2021, due to power issue. Mr. Glenn Bendesi?
Yes, this is asking you. Problem with our HVAC system, necessitating us to shut that down because we do want to ventilate the classroom with our filters because of COVID. At 10/22, we did send students home. So this is an emergency closure. So this is an application for us to submit to claim that this was an emergency closure, but that we are still requesting the average, the daily attendance allowance for that day.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Patty Cortese, second by Lorena Chavez. Our student, Paula, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
All right, thank you, Paula. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Right, item, no abstention, and item 13.01 passed unanimously. Move on to 13.02, discussion and action to approve the contract for professional services over 25,000.
Second.
All right, moved by Lorena Chavez, second by Brian Doe. Paula, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
All right, thank you, Paula. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And there's no abstention, and item 13.02 passed unanimously. Move to 14.01, discussion and action to approve memorandum of understanding between California School Employee Association and East Foothills Chapter 187 and the Eastside Union High School District regarding supplemental pay leave. Mr. Tom Wynn, Associate Superintendent of Human Resource.
Thank you, Madam President. This item and the next two are an extension essentially of SB 95 that expired on September 30th. We're doing this internally to provide our employees with relief in case we have to mandate that they quarantine. We felt that it was not fair for staff members to take a hit on their sick leave if we're mandating them to stay home due to COVID protections and whatnot. And so we felt that it was in the best interest of our district and our employees. It shows how much we care and about our employees and their work environments. And so we came to an agreement with CSEA, ESTA, and AFT regarding this supplemental leave.
Awesome. Yes, go ahead, Patty.
Well,
Cortese.
I just appreciate these MOUs because I think it's not only the right thing to do, I think it's the safe thing to do, because if people are in a place where they feel like they can't take their sick time, they may be reluctant to disclose maybe that they've been exposed to COVID or have symptoms or something. And, that's a way to undo a lot of progress. So I would move to approve on this.
Second.
All right, moved by Patty Cortese, second by Board Member Doe. Paula, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
All right, thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
No abstention. Item 14.01 passed unanimously. 14.02, discussion and action to approve memorandum of understanding between Eastside Teacher Association and the Eastside Union High School District regarding supplemental pay leave. I need a
same,
motion,
so,
the same
yeah.
thing.
So
I need a motion. And
I'll
then,
move.
Second.
okay, moved by Board Member Patty Cortese, second by Board Member Doe. Paula, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Thank you. All in favors, please say aye.
Aye.
No abstention. Item 14.02 passed unanimously. 14.03, discussion and action to approve memorandum of understanding between San Jose Federation of Teachers Local 957, AFT, AFL, CIO, and the Eastside Union High School District regarding supplemental and pay leave.
Move for approval.
Second.
All right, moved by Lorena Chavez and second by Brian Doe. Paula, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Thank you. All in favors, please say aye.
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 No abstention. Item 14.03 passed unanimously. Number 14.04, discussion and action to approve employment contract for interim associate superintendent of businesses services. Mr. Tomwin, associate superintendent.
Thanks, Mr. Wynn. We currently have an open position in our Associate Superintendent of Business Services. We have communicated with the individual here in this contract, and a retired individual is ready to assist us on an interim basis in heading our business services division and making sure that all those duties and our obligations are carried out. And so this is the contract for the interim Associate Superintendent of Business being brought to you this evening for approval.
Move for approval.
Second.
All right, moved by Board Member Doe, second by Board Member Herrera. Paula, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Thank you, Paula. All in favors, please say aye.
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 No abstention. Item 14.04 passed unanimously. 15.01, discussion and action to approve the bond capital projects contract over 50,000.
I'll move to approve.
All right, Paula, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Thank you, Paula. All in favors, please say aye.
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 No abstention. 15.01 passed unanimously. From 16 to 20, consent action calendar.
Move for approval of the consent calendar.
Second.
All right, moved by Board Vice President Herrera, second by Board Member Lorena Chavez. Paula, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Thank you, Paula. All in favors, please say aye.
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 No abstention. Item passed unanimously. Now, 21, we have written report, but I think it's the 21.01, the item section 21, a written report are received into the public record. No action is taken by the board. The board member or superintendent may put an item for discussion or request an item to be placed on agenda for discussion and or action at a future meeting. Nothing at all from 21.01 and 21.02. We received annual developer fee report for 2021. No question at all for 21.02. We move to 22, opportunity for board trustee to request item on future agendas. Any board member has any item would like to request on future agendas? See none, hear none. And we move to 23.01. We go from my left hand side, Board Member Doe. You have any comments? Board Member Lorena Chavez. Clerk.
Yes, all right. The school visits continue. And the joy continues as well. So I had the pleasure of visiting Foothill Adult Ed here, this campus. It's so beautiful. It was my first time going in there. In some of the classrooms, I was like, what is this? This is amazing. And the engagement of the teachers with the students and vice versa. Y'all need to go visit our adult ed program. That we don't talk about it enough, and they do some pretty great things with the students. So that was amazing. Andrew Hill, Mount Pleasant, Silver Creek, Evergreen Valley, YB, were the others. Of course, my highlight is always the kids. Every time I get to a site, I'm like, where are the kids? Where is the learning? Where is the teaching? Take me there. Principals already know. And every school has something special. But I will point two things out at YB. One of my highlights there, aside from I love being at my alma mater, go Warriors. Warriors. I walked into a Vietnamese class, and it was so cool to engage with some kids because they were teaching me some phrases. Now, do I remember them? I clearly need more practice. So Van, maybe you'll teach me. I think they were teaching me hello friend. I was one of them. And it sounded really great while I remembered, but again, more practice.
Sounds just like Italian.
Oh God, I don't think so. There ain't no Latin root there. In Evergreen Valley, there was one teacher's class. I mean, all the classrooms that I went to were great, but this one in particular was trying something new, the pointless system, I think it's called. So they were engaging students in a different way of grading. And at Evergreen, something that I hear a lot from our students is I feel a lot of pressure. I feel a lot of stress. It's really hard to get an A or things like that. And in this classroom, what I was hearing is I don't get a grade immediately. I have an opportunity to earn points. And the teacher through that system was giving students an option to even do more assignments. But because of the way that it was framed and presented, the kids would actually do more work and be less stressed. And so I was like, huh. And so this is something that I'm interested in continuing to learn about and follow. But that was something that I found really interesting. Pointless system, in case y'all are interested in looking it up. But again, thank you to all the principals and all the staff, all the adults that make my visit possible, and all the kids for letting me talk to you. This random board member, just wanting to know how are things going. So yeah, and I want to give a shout out to our superintendent. You're kicking butt. There's a lot going on, and you managed to engage around a lot of important stuff in a really productive manner in a time when there feels like there's so many competing priorities. And so I want to appreciate you for holding it all and moving it forward. I can't imagine how hard it is. So I just want you to know that we see it and we appreciate it.
Thank you, Board Member Lorena Chavez. On my right side, Board Member Patty Cotizi. You have any comments?
Thank you. Ooh. Is that me?
No,
Oh,
that's.
No, that's
Like, that is some weird feedback I'm having. Yeah, the trash can on wheels. Yeah, I've done a blitz of school visits in the last 24 hours. I think I went to 6 sites, and great to see the kids. Total empathy with the teachers and the administration, and just how hard it is to come back, and hearing about the sub shortage and hearing about the mental health challenges, and getting to see the wellness centers in person that we've talked about here. So all that was great. Seeing the kids was great. I want to do a special shout out to Julio Lucas because our campuses are beautiful. I got to see, yes, really, could we do that? I mean, I went to YB and Overfeld today, and I mean, all our schools are looking great, but those two schools in particular, I hadn't been to Overfeld yet since the building project was complete.
Yeah.
And actually Piedmont, Mount Pleasant, I hadn't seen theirs until yesterday either, and that is tremendous. And I just being in those spaces, like I just felt I was catapulted into like some new, like I couldn't even recognize Overfelt for the campus that it was before. And down to the colors that you chose and the landscaping. And I mean, I think part of my takeaway from that is, I mean, I saw kids that were really thriving. And I think a lot of it is the space that they're in. You know, I mean, the new paint job, it's not so new paint job at YB anymore. It's probably 3 or 4 years old, but it's new since I've been there. And I just think that the colors and you know, of course, the new building there too, I mean, I just kind of feel kids walking a little taller, you know, I don't know how else to describe it, but it's just extraordinary. So thank you for creating those spaces for our kids. It's amazing. And our community. Yeah.
I want to echo board member Patty Cortese also that, you know, our school, you know, is very much, you know, very beautiful, you know, one of those new projects. But I really want to appreciate CSEA staff have been working very hard to keep it clean. I mean, it's very amazing. And especially during COVID-19, you know, they work very hard to clean up, you know, it's spotless. So I think that's something that I really want to say out loud, appreciate, you know, CSEA have been working, you know, very hard for during COVID-19 and reopening school. I'm going to ask my board vice president, Manuel Herrera.
I don't have any comment.
Do you have any comments? All right. Okay. I want to say that I want to send my condolence to bond manager Julio Lucas. He was missed at our thank you party for the Moon Festival, but the organizing committee also sent the appreciation plaque to Julio Lucas, as well as Roger Silvera, and also Superintendent Glenn Vanderzee. And they also have addition 1,000 more check to McKinney Vento. I had it with me, but I left it at my office. So I'm sorry, I will send it to you soon. So that's something that is really amazing, you know, to see all our students and teachers, you know, and also staff and administrator been working very hard, you know, from beginning of the reopening school until now. That's just really amazing. Kudos to everyone. You know, and I think that's, you know, sitting here and make the policy really affecting our student, affecting staff, affecting teachers, you know, and administrator. I think we are gonna appreciate everyone that make a difference, you know, for our district. And I'm really proud of Eastside Union High School District. We have very good employee, very, you know, talented, as well as student. Our student also very talented, you know. So I comment, especially, you know, for board representative, student board representative Paula. So I'm gonna ask Paula, what's your comments?
Yeah, first of all, I wanted to go back to what Lorena mentioned earlier about like visiting Evergreen and like how just like the pressure a lot of students are feeling. I just wanted to really echo that. Like the pressure really is real for so many of our students, whether it's like balancing schoolwork or managing family responsibilities. It's been really rough for a lot of us. And I think what we need to do as a district is make sure that we are really taking that into consideration on all levels and ensuring that students have the resources that they need. And I really like the kind of framework that a lot of teachers have been implementing of being like flexible and receptive to their students and having these different grading systems where they can focus on students' performance versus just a bunch of points, right? And I'm really glad to see the work the district has been taking up. However, I do see that there are still like a lot of gaps present. We know that based on the presentation from last board meeting on the English Language Learners Program. And with that, I know that whenever we do these types of presentations, whenever we try to assess the needs of our district, we really need to hear the input of our students first and foremost, because that's when we'll be able to pinpoint what is needed and what the gaps really are. Because at the end of the day, we feel everything that's passed on these school board meetings. And so I really want to emphasize that every time anyone, the district staff needs to report on something, that they also need to hear back from the students and what we think, because once again, our voices matter. And for so long, we have been underrepresented in these matters that directly affect us.
Awesome. Thank you, Paula Escobar, Student Governance Board Representative comments. So move on to 23.03, Superintendent.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. And thank you for your kind words, Lorena. But I have to say it's good work. And there's so many good people in our district that are moving us forward that it ain't this guy kicking butt. It's all of us. I mean, let's be real. I've had the opportunity to, and I appreciate it. I had the opportunity to sit and listen to staff at Independence last week, about Piedmont Hills. Today will be at Overfelt tomorrow and a few other schools. And, you know, people are letting us know that it is work and it's hard work. And as Teresa Marquez said earlier, it's like we maybe underestimated just kind of the to coming back and the additional workload. I was at a football game last Friday, and one of the principals said, you know, I used to kind of like, this was my like enjoyment for the night. The week was over, I'll watch the game, and now it's issues and student issues and things coming up that we're still working with folk into the evening, through the varsity game, and that's real. And for our is that? That's right. And so with our classified staff that she's doing, and our certificated staff, that as we talk about, whether it's ISP or picking up the sub shortage, it's just people are stepping up. And so when we look for inspiration, you know, I don't have to look outside East Side. Like people are being real on where their concerns and where their, you know, kind of their conflicts or just their frustrations right now. That, hey, we welcomed 11,000 students who've never been in a high school before, and we're getting down to some of our to 10 or 12 or 13 at a campus that we're still having the norm. And while people are frustrated and going, what's on? I don't hear anybody backing up from saying we're really to engage as a team to help these students out, right? And so I just want to lift up the work that is happening across East Side. I want to lift up our students who are applying for colleges and not knowing, what do I say? My grades were different last year. What's the anxiety of maybe me not getting in because of, you know, whatever distance learning and all these adjustments, and we're handling it together. So I just want to say thank you, East Side. We'll keep it up. And thanks to students and staff for just really being there for each other.
Absolutely. Thank you, Superintendent Glenn Bendezi. Now move to 23.02, board meeting evaluation. I think if we get out here before 9, we do a good job, right? Well, but I think it's today we have 2 presentations that take a little bit longer, but I think is needed because the Metro Ed presentation as well as the Essa plan presentation is very important. And I think that they deserve to have a little bit more time than
CSBA
anticipate.
says a good board meeting is 65% student achievement. So I think that's a good metric.
Absolutely. All right, move to 24.01 legal counsel report on closed session actions. Rogerio, please.
Yes. Closed session, agenda item 2.07, The board unanimously voted to reject the claim of D. Enriquez. There are no additional actions to report.
Thank you, Legal Counsel Rohiryo. Adjourn the meeting and we see each other November 4, 2021, a regular board meeting. Thank you.